Yeah, so today we get to do Snap Talks, and we get to hear from Zion and Emily, which I'm really looking forward to that, getting to know them a little bit more, and just what they carry, just the special things that the Lord has been speaking to them and showing them. And then we're also going to hear from Larry after that. He has an opportunity to do a Snap Talk as well. And he was very gracious to just last minute decide that, so I'm excited to hear that too. I knew he's one of those people that you can ask him and on a whim he'll have something to talk about. So that's fun.
So this is sort of fun, having not done it this way before. And Jessica had somebody else slotted, and they weren't able to make it. So she gave me a call or a text, and I said, sure, whatever, if you need me to. But then I actually got excited about it because it's an occasion to talk to you guys about what's happened recently. And when I mean recently, I'm kind of talking about the short term from my birthday forward, and the longer term in the things that led up to the transition and all the things that are going on. The birthday celebration was it felt more definitive than I thought it was going to feel. It was very beautiful, and all your sentiments were wonderful, and everything was going on. But it really felt like there was something different, not just because I had turned 70, but it was like this is the way things were, and now this is the way things are. And I didn't really understand it, but it felt that way. And then we had that panel discussion afterwards, and there was definitely a sense of handoff, even to the extent that somebody who knows me really well, Jen, was kind of worried about me. Like, this isn't what I expected this to be like. Well, it wasn't what I expected to be like either. But I want to explain to you a couple things that have happened that are just so precious to me that it's just really amazing. So if I had to characterize one of the things that's going on in my life right now, it would be that I don't have my priorities clearly established like I did for a long time. And I'm not talking like basic priorities of loving God and loving Vicki and whatever. That's not up in the air, and it's not a confusing thing. It's just that my week and my life used to be filled with scheduled events, scheduled meetings, scheduled teaching, and doing stuff like that. And I'm still just as busy. Somebody asked me a question using the word retirement. I have no even way to relate to what that would be like or how it is, because it doesn't feel that way at all. But so at first it was a little confusing, and then I would get to the end of a day, and this is over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I would get to the end of a day, and I didn't know how to evaluate the success of the day or the profitability of the day or the productiveness of the day. And I didn't realize how dependent I was on what I perceived to be faithfully fulfilling my obligations that were a part of my established routine, doing a good job about it. I could, it was, if I was teaching something on Tuesday, or if I was prepping something for Friday, or doing this or that, you mentioned it, Zon, you mentioned the necessity for God to kind of disrupt your identity. All right, so that's what it feels like now. I really begin to recognize it. But probably one of the most encouraging things is that I'm not walking through this with a picture of the fact that I had a bad identity, or that I've just got to throw my identity away. But I'm starting to recognize what has been growing as a good thing in my life for a long time. And it's this simple thing that I learned from George McDonald quite a while ago, and then I remember last year when Bill Vanderbush was here and Catherine was here. It was one of the first times I shared it, and I shared it with some of the guys on Tuesday and stuff. McDonald wrote this sermon, this essay thing called Creation in Christ. And he says the thing that was created in Jesus was life. And then he expanded it, and it really caught my attention. And I began to try to understand that and try to live with a consciousness of it. And the essence of it was that when Jesus came, the unique thing that he was able to create in himself is the life that is obedience to the Father's will. And so I embraced that because I understood it, I thought, in Scripture, and I saw it. But in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I realized that I was holding that as a truth kind of at half arm's length. But I was still drawing my satisfaction and my sense of all rightness, partly from fulfilling a bunch of the random things that were obligations. Now, I'm all for fulfilling obligations, but at some point you've got to not commit to too many obligations. Otherwise you fill your whole life up, and you may block the very thing that I'm beginning to hold precious, which is, Father, what are you doing, and what do you want to do with me? What am I doing with you? So this last 3 weeks has been an unraveling of that. And what's emerging out of the middle of it, it would be like, I don't know, there's all kinds of illustrations, an onion would be one, layers and things like that where you could peel, or a flower. But at the center, I'm beginning to see that it's not like life is here in kind of a dwarfed form, and if I make the right steps, it gets bigger. Life is here in its full, complete form. And it feels distant because it is distant from me, meaning I'm leaning on other things to feel good. When what becomes the light of men is that life that Jesus has by saying, Father, I just only do what you do. And I've been doing that for a while when I journal and writing down, Lord, what do we want to do together today? And it usually, for the most part, is a list of tasks. And sometimes it was just a list that was mostly the things I was already obligated to do anyway. And I think that there was some growth there. There was some reality there that I was growing in. But what's happened in the last 3 weeks or almost a month now is there's a connection that my heart and mind can recognize between simply really surrendering to and committing to and cherishing the thing that the Father's doing. And it doesn't have to be judged on another merit. I don't know if that's making any sense, but Jesus was okay, not because of the things he did, and not because of the relative success that one of them had against something else. I think I can say that. And I'm sharing beyond my pay grade for sure, and trying to be that straightforward about it. Jesus was okay because he knew the Father. And he knew the Father's love for him. And he knew that he loved the Father. And it was that place in that knowledge, that place in that will, that place in that choosing. I only do what I see the Father doing. These words are not my own. They're the Father working in me. It wasn't that he had a success with Nathaniel, or he had a success with Nicodemus, or it wasn't that he failed with somebody else to get the message across, and have I been with you so long that you still don't know? It wasn't any of that caused him to be okay. All of those things had an inordinate place in my life that I leaned on to feel okay. And now the Lord is beginning to peel those things away. And when you think about it, if you lean too heavily on individual things like that, God can't ask you to do something different or hard, because you won't recognize that it's a good thing and that it's Him doing it. And you'll or what I would do is the value that I felt about a given thing was wrapped really tightly up in what it produced, in its outcome. When sometimes God just wants you to be with Him in a place that can't produce the ultimate result yet, either in you or in the other person or in the circumstances. And I don't. The reason I'm having a hard time explaining it is because it's brand new to me. I don't know necessarily how to parse out the artificial part of it, but I'm feeling it peeled off of me. I'm feeling it pulled away from me. One of the manifestations of it was I would have a good day with my list. And this does sound like it's trivializing a little bit. I was really sincere. I understand that. I was sincere in listening to the Lord and trying to do what He said. But I would have a good day with my list, or a day where I was able to get through the things and be obedient and so on and so forth. But I would go home at night, and when we were winding down, getting ready to relax in the evening before we go to bed or whatever, I would get depressed. And I would go... and I would just have all these physical and emotional and mental things like that, that were expressed like that. And since things have changed in the last few weeks, the Lord has finally been able to explain that to me in a way that I can understand and abandon. And he said, you were pursuing the things that I was doing with you. But then in the end of the day, you sat down and you said, without the word, you were going to evaluate them. But you didn't evaluate them. You judged them. And so I sat there and I thought about it. And I realized, yeah, you're right. I did. I was in a habit of trying to wrap up the day thinking, well, how did I do walking with you and doing with what you did? But it went beyond what would legitimately be called an evaluation, and it became a judgment. And because judgment was the inappropriate thing to do, it opened the door for accusations. And then I would have to deal. Even it didn't matter whether it was the day that I only got like 3 things done on a list of 6, or it was the day that I got all 6 things done. I was inviting an accusation of inadequacy or some other form of that. And it was real. I mean, it created real emotional issues. Not like I was, I don't know, Vicki, I wasn't like incapacitated or anything, but it was this weird recurring, how come I'm just sitting here going, So part of the cure of that, which I think I am cured from it, quite frankly, which is very exciting considering that I realize now looking back, I did that for dozens and dozens and dozens and tens of dozens of years. I think I'm cured of that, not just because I'm not necessarily doing it. The Lord did give me a technique, and I'll share that in just a second in case it might help somebody. But I was attaching a desired affirmation to the tasks and their completion that they could never fulfill. They were never designed to carry it. They could not. They could not turn out good enough to validate me in my own heart and my own spirit, because what we do never has that capacity, I think. Now I'm speaking that I jumped back into pastor mode for a second there. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. For me, it didn't. What makes me okay is knowing that Jesus loves the Father, and the Father loves Jesus, and I'm in him, and he's in me. And so a couple of scriptures that have always been important are now even more important. John 14:20, Jesus says, in that day you'll know that I'm in my Father, you're in me, and I'm in you. Well, that means to me now that the root of my okayness is knowing about the union between the Father and the Son, and that's in good shape, and I'm in him, and he's in me, so I'm in good shape. And it doesn't matter whether I botched up a thing, I omitted a thing, or I was a star in a thing. That means, and this is just, that means the Lord can lead me now into things I don't know how to do. He can lead me into things that I'm not good at. And sometimes he might need me to do some things that I don't yet know what to do. And I don't know if it makes any sense, but it feels like all the artificial, and it was never like I was trying to be fake. But what I was doing was I was drawing something from results that they could just never produce. And so in the last few days, and even today, the only reason that I agreed to do this tonight when Jessica said maybe is that I was spending some time with the Lord, and he showed me another verse just out of the top of my head. And it's in John 4. I don't know really where it is. I had to look it up. And you can tell it's not on the PowerPoint, so I didn't do anything for it. I believe it's when Jesus was at the well in Samaria, and he had been talking to the woman, and she had left, and the disciples had come back, and he was there by himself. It's in John 4 somewhere in that, toward the end of it. And the disciples saw him sitting there, and they said, oh, here, we should get you something to eat. And he said, and I remembered this, and this is the one that I remembered when I was sitting in there talking with the Lord. He said, I have meat that you know not of. But I didn't remember what the next verse was, so I had to look it up on my phone. And he said, now this is early in his ministry, right? This is in John 4. This is not like way late when he's talking about prepping the disciples and all that stuff. He said, I have meat that you know not of. And then he said something to the effect of, this is my food, to do the will of my Father. The thing that will bring outside energy into me and nourish me and replenish me when I'm out of gas is to do the will of my Father. And he was utterly committed to that. Later on in ministry was where he taught about, I only do what I see the Father doing. The Father and I are one. If you see me, you've seen him. So, gosh, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Yes, obedience to God is going to lead me into the new things that are going to be a part of our mine and Vicky's life. And there's all kinds of weird stuff. Like, for those of you that know me, we got work around the house to do. There's some things going on here. There's the GAN network shows that I haven't produced one in about 4 months, and I feel, if I let myself, I'll feel guilty about that. There's all kinds of other things that are going on. There's stuff to do here for the website and marketing. So I've still got plenty of things I can make lists out of. But God can take me into places that I have no means of knowing whether I'm going there right or not. But I know it's all right. And it's a little bit like, I think what you illustrated, Zion and Emily, so well. Well, Lord, this isn't how I expected it, but you're still here. This isn't how I interpreted your promise. But that doesn't matter, because you're here. And I just was realizing, matter of fact, I hadn't even really figured out how to say this, but maybe this is it. I realized that I had the habit of substituting satisfaction with the fact that God was with me, I was in him, he was in me, and we were doing this together with a certain version of the outcome. And literally, it's just like the last couple of days that I've been able to recognize that and lay that down, and it feels important. So.
Okay, we're good. So you've talked over the years about relationship and non-transactional relationship with God. And what you just talked about just tonight, you talked about the idea that as long as the Father and Jesus are in a good relationship, you're good. It may sound silly to many, but for me, that helps explain the problem with divorce and how kids of divorced families struggle.
Yeah.
So that really ties a lot together for me, and I appreciate that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I thought you were going to ask me, wasn't it kind of hypocritical thinking or teaching about non-transitional stuff all the time and then being transactional? Yeah, it was. But it was ignorant hypocrisy, and that's a different kind. Any other questions? Okay.
As you were talking, some of you that have been around for a while, you may remember a series that Larry did probably 6-7 years ago on the ideal. And it was every time when we talk about ones that have impacted us or impacted me over the years, that's one that always comes up. And what struck me about it is we're consistently, I feel, fighting against the ideal. We're being measured, whether it be in corporate America, our jobs, our relationships, outcomes, our expectations against other people's expectations to the ideal. And even, here's what I find so precious. You did a 3 or 4 part series on that, and that was years ago. And here you are, getting to walk it out
fresh.
Even more fresh.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. No, it and
it's
really
awesome.
Is. It does feel, it feels kind of fresh to me. And even if you just put it in those terms, Jason, what could be possibly more ideal than the way the Father loves the Son and the way the Son loves the Father and the way the Spirit takes not just gifts. I grew up in Assemblies of God, and it was all about gifts. The Spirit takes what the Father has given the Son and declares it over us. I never knew what that meant. I still don't necessarily know what it means, but I know it sort of means this. It means that the way the Father loves the Son, the Holy Spirit is declaring over us. And Jesus said that in John 17. So maybe the ideal that we talked about for all those years and worked through, maybe the ideal is not necessarily bad because it doesn't exist. It's bad because we've made a lesser thing an idol of it. The ideal is that the Father loves the Son and has given us the opportunity to love him the way the Son loves and to love the Son the way. So anyway, I don't know. I'm a novice at it now, so that's cool. Yeah. That's cool though.
It's a great way to enjoy the experience and the process without hanging your hat on the outcome.
Yeah. Well, and without necessarily even like, this is what both Simon and Emily said, not even having to have the process match your expectation. So you're not a slave to the process and you're not a slave to the outcome. You're just a beneficiary. You're not a slave. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why it feels free. Maybe that's why it feels free. Yeah. Actually, because freedom, come to think of it, as late as just a month or two ago, freedom always had an overtone of irresponsibility to me. And I think that's why. Okay.
That is so funny that you say that, because when you walked up here and sat down, there was something that seemed different about you. And I was like, man, Lord, he looks like he's more free. And I thought, well, but I can't see anything physically that's necessarily different. Yeah. But there was something different about your spirit. And so but I thought, but he already knows how to walk in that. He's already talked about that. You know, he's been growing in that. So how is it that it looks different now? And it is. Something has shifted over you. And it really is like, it does. I could pick that up. And I think that's so cool. So the fact that you even admit that it was almost hard for you to even accept freedom because it seemed irresponsible. Like, that is cool that he's doing a whole new thing in that.
That's insane too, of course. I mean, just when you just define the words, I get that. Yeah, Jen just said, that's why I said I don't know you anymore. All right, any last one? I'll turn it back over to Jessica. Okay. Thank you, guys. This was a real privilege.
Yeah, thank you, guys. That was really awesome. I loved getting to know the Diggs more, Emily and Zion, and Larry more as well. So really enjoyed that. Thank you, Zoomers, as well. And all right, yeah, we're done.